Hey there, this is Leslie Noble, and this is No Bullshit Truth Radio. Thank you so much for joining me today. Before we get into today's episode, I want you to hear this part really clearly. This podcast is for education and insight only. It is not therapy or a substitute for therapy or any mental health treatment, and this does not create any kind of therapeutic relationship. I'm here to offer clarity, perspective, and no bullshit truth. But your healing deserves real life support too. So I would recommend that you find a professional that can hold space for your story. Take what serves you and leave what doesn't. And always get the professional care that you need because you are worth it. This is No Bullshit Truth Radio, and today we're going to cut straight into that wound, why people betray. It's the first thing people always ask me when they come into my office is, why do people betray? Why did this person do this to me? I thought we had a good relationship, or I thought this workplace valued me, or I thought this friendship, I thought this person was my best friend. So I'm not going to give you the sugar-coated version. I'm not going to give you the spiritual bypass version. I'm going to give you the real, human, psychologically accurate truth about why people betray. Okay, so let's start here. People betray because it's easier than being honest with you. It's avoidance. It's a quick fix. It's easy to do that. Betrayal is just a shortcut. And honestly, it's a coward's way of avoiding accountability, avoiding discomfort, avoiding the mirror. Most betrayal isn't calculated evil. However, it can be, especially if you're part of the dark triad, which is narcissism, sociopaths, and psychopaths. But for most people, it's just emotional immaturity, dressed up as, I didn't mean to hurt you. But let's be honest, they weren't protecting you. They were protecting their image of themselves. So here's the thing. And I think the thing that was most hard for me to grasp or understand when it happened to me is, why would somebody make that choice? And did they really mean to? And did they know what they were doing? And the shortcut answer to that is yes. They knew exactly what they were doing, but they chose the immature path instead of the one that protects you and protects your heart. People betray, first of all, when their internal world is completely chaotic. When they don't know how to regulate their own shame, they lie. When they don't know how to tolerate guilt, they hide. When they don't know how to communicate their needs, they seek it in the shadows from somebody else. Betrayal is a nervous system collapse masquerading as a choice. And yes, like I said before, it's still a choice. One of the things I always tell people, a lot of times when someone has betrayed you, there becomes this defense. I did this because you didn't show up for me, or you didn't meet my needs as a partner. One of the things I always tell people is there's 1,000 other choices they could have made in that moment. They could have said to you, I am attracted to somebody else, or this relationship is going to end because I am not getting my needs met. And then if you don't do it, then it's on you. But there are 1,000 different ways choices they could make. They could say to you, hey, let's get into couples therapy. I'm concerned about our relationship. Or they could say to their friend, I feel like we're not on the same page. It's still a choice. It is a choice masquerading as, I didn't really mean to, or I didn't know what I was doing. And here's the part that often stings. Betrayal often happens because you were the safe one. You were the stable one, the emotionally available one, the one who could absorb the impact. And just because you are strong enough to absorb the impact doesn't mean that you should. People betray the person that they think will survive it. And that's exactly why it cuts so deep. You were trying to meet that person with loyalty and heart and consistently, and they cut you anyway. On a soul level, betrayal is a rupture that forces the truth to the surface. It exposes misalignment. It reveals where you've been negotiating your worth. It shows you where you've been choosing potential over reality. Betrayal is the universe saying to you, you weren't going to leave, so I have to show you. I'm going to tell you a story right here. I'm going to be vulnerable and tell you part of my story. How you feel in your gut something's wrong, but you can't figure it out. And I remember in a particular situation that I was in, we had just put a down payment on a house. We were blending each other's lives, and we had just put a down payment on the house. And we had just gone to see the floor plan of the house we were going to buy. Thank God all we had done is just put down the $500 deposit that you have the intent to build a house. And we were out to eat. And he said to me, here, hold my phone while I run to the bathroom. And one of the texts just happened to pop up. I've never believed that was an accident, because I don't think I would have. That was the beginning of the end. And I don't think I would have seen it any other way. I don't think I would have believed it because of who he was. I don't think I would have ever believed it. And so it was like, woo, right in my face, smack right across the face. I left, and that was the beginning of the end. I left the restaurant, and that was the beginning of the end. So I do think it was the universe, God, spirit, whatever you believe in, way of saying to me, I'm going to show you what's going on. It also exposes the misalignment and where you've been negotiating your worth. I think if I look back on that relationship, I definitely dimmed myself down. He was a pretty popular community leader, and I just let him take the lead, and I tried to be the supportive partner. I can see now where I compromised myself in places where I really didn't want to, but did it anyway because I thought I was being loyal. And I also thought that this was the potential for us to build something really great. But I can look back and see now that there were some misalignments in what we valued together, and how he valued honesty and commitment. Obviously, how he valued honesty and communication. I think the universe did me a favor. When I look at 6 years ago and where I am now, it's pretty incredible. So I want you to hear this, because it took me a really, really long time to come to this. And if this is the place you are, I completely understand. It wasn't your fault. It wasn't your lack. It wasn't your unworthiness. It was their inability to meet themselves, and you just happened to be standing close enough to feel the shrapnel. The job now isn't to try to understand them. It is to come back home to yourself. I think that it shows you the work you need to do, because the first place I went there to was, maybe I wasn't good enough in this situation. Maybe I didn't show up like I should have. But I look back on it now, and it has nothing to do with how worthy I was. It was his lack of ability to meet himself, and his lack of ability to do the work he needs to do to be whole. And we could spend all day analyzing why somebody did what they did. But to heal and to become whole, you have to come back home to yourself. So if you're ready to stop repeating those patterns, stop attracting the same dynamics over and over, and finally rebuild trust in yourself, I want you to go grab my No Betrayal Guide. It's down in the link in my channel on YouTube. It's a roadmap that honestly I wrote it because I wish somebody had given it to me, because I had no idea how to heal from this pattern. It was something I wish somebody had handed to me years ago. I tried to make it really clear and grounded and to help you get out of that cycle for good. But let me break down really quickly for those of you that want to know why somebody would betray you. To break it down in simple terms: avoidance, avoiding themselves. Sometimes it's ego. We live in a world where people can get really fast access to porn and sites that make it really easy to betray and make it really easy to be unfaithful. The other is, I think sometimes people they don't understand or have the skills and behaviors to understand what it means to have a healthy relationship, what it means to have a healthy marriage. They've never healed from the wounds from their past. And I do think it's each one of us, it's very important that we take a look at ourselves when relationships end and own our side of the street, but not take more than our side of the street. We can analyze this all day long and we can analyze it to death. But the truth is, each person's responsible for their own healing and they're responsible for their own behavior. Another reason I think people betray is jealousy and their inability to manage their own jealousy or their own feelings or to emotionally regulate. I might see somebody that I think is really attractive, but I've made a choice to be committed to the person I'm with. It's the inability to regulate those emotions and regulate the impulsiveness around some of their choices. Honestly, it's a really immature way of living your life. I'm going to play with people and I'm going to chase the next beautiful or handsome thing that I see. I think our social media makes that so very easy to do. And I think sometimes we don't value our culture in itself. The last thing I would say is the culture in itself right now, we don't value relationship very much. I'm seeing this sort of cultural shift in the way that we interact with each other. It's almost like we've gotten kind of hopeless, that the other sex is bad. And there's some merit to some of the things that are happening right now. I'm not saying, but I think that we feel betrayed by each other. And so it makes it really hard for you to value connection when we're seeing it and we're exposed to those images all day long. So how do we make sense of all this? Well, we go inward and we work on ourselves. We pull back our energy from focusing on what other people are doing. We don't make our empathy louder than our boundaries and our standards and who we are, and we stay in our integrity regardless of what other people do. We can't control what other people do. I think that was the biggest mistake I made, is sometimes I would make my empathy way louder than my boundaries. My empathy got me in trouble. I would look at someone and I would think, well, they've had a tough upbringing. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. But the benefit of the doubt, yes, you can give people grace and you can give them empathy and you can try to help them. But when it's consistently hurting you is when you need to look at it. So thank you so much, and I hope this part was really helpful. One of the things I'm going to start doing at the end of every podcast is I'm going to recommend some books that you can read on betrayal. I hope that you will check out my betrayal guide, but if not, the book I like the most is Patrick Carnes. I would say number one. He's written a lot about the betrayal bond. So the book I'm going to recommend is The Betrayal Bond: Breaking Free of Exploited Relationships by Patrick Carnes. He is the expert on this subject of what a trauma bond is, why you keep repeating the same patterns. This is a brilliant book because it talks about why do we stay attached to people that hurt us. and even when we know that relationship is destructive. He explains how trauma bonds work and the psychological and biological ties that form when trust and danger get mixed together. I would say When I Was Healing is one of the very first books I read, and it was, I think, life-changing. So if I ever met him, I would say to him, I'm so grateful for this book. These bonds, trauma bonds, don't just show up in relationships. They show up in toxic family systems, abusive relationships, exploitive workplaces, cult dynamics, and any situation where somebody uses power to hurt you, where there is intensity or emotional chaos in a relationship. And the book walks you through how trauma bonds form, why they feel so addictive. I hear people say to me all the time when I'm working with them, why do I still have a longing for somebody that hurt me so badly? It's tied into addiction, and he explains how that addictive cycle becomes what it is. It's literally like a brain response to a drug. Love has those chemicals, those bonding chemicals that can feel so addictive. And when you're already vulnerable because you've got wounds from the past that maybe you haven't completely healed, then you are more vulnerable to a trauma bond. So this is how to recognize the power and how to break the bond safely and permanently. He gives you checklists, assessments, and strategies on how to reclaim your sense of self when you're healing. Excellent book. It is The Betrayal Bond, Breaking Free of Exploitive Relationships by Patrick Carnes. Very good book. So one of the things I'm going to do at the end of every podcast is I'm going to recommend a book. I call it the self-help section in the bookstore. There's so many self-help books out there, but one of the things I would really encourage you is to read the ones that are evidence-based and researched. They're going to be a lot more helpful. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope the podcast was helpful to you. And if you want to continue to follow me, I have a YouTube where I do 30-second shorts on YouTube called No Bullshit Truth. I also have a website, www.strongheartwarriorproject.com. I work with people on rewriting their stories and healing from betrayal once and for all. I also, in addition to the podcast, I have a weekly newsletter that comes out and a blog that I'd love for you to follow, which has even more research and evidence-based techniques on healing. I'd love for you to be a part of my community, the No Bullshit Truth community, where we tell each other the truth, but we're also respectful. There's not enough spaces in our current culture where people feel safe and heard and protected. And that's exactly what I'm trying to create. So I would love for you to be a part of that community. See you next time.